Starliner Media.
Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell.
Moving forward, the follow-up to Sports was Fore. That album, you end up having 4 hit singles off of that. Now, obviously, you're under pressure now, both from yourselves to follow up Sports. Plus, I'm sure the record company was probably pushing you pretty good to get new album out, and they wanted hit singles. What was it like when you guys went in the studio to do Fore?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I think we were starting to feel a little strain regarding songwriting. I mean, I'd have to go get the record and see. Tell me some of the songs on Fore.
Stuck With You.
Stuck With You, right.
Hip to Be Square.
Yeah.
I Know What I Like, and Doing It All for My Baby.
There you go. So, right, that was a little scattershot as well, if you think about it. So we were just doing more of the same, but maybe not as well. I don't know what you would say. Let's face it, everyone has an attention span. And it wasn't like, and we'd been around a while. And let's face it, what goes up must come down. We didn't sell as many records with Fore. But strangely, as part of our deal with Back to the Future, we were allowed to include Power of Love on Fore, released internationally, the rest of the world. So Fore is actually a bigger record worldwide than Sports. So that worked out handily.
I'd say.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of recollection cutting those tunes. I mean, if I really sat down and thought about it, I could put it all together. I remember, I'm looking at the string going by and some of the songs. I remember Stuck With You was on the fence. And some of the guys in the band didn't like it, who shall forever remain nameless. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a stone cold hit. And I convinced, Huey and I probably convinced the band it was worth pursuing. And we did. And I suppose I know there's a lot of critics out there and a lot of folks that still don't like the song. But I thought it was a fantastic love song. And, to this day, people are celebrating their 30th marriage anniversary with Stuck With You as the opening number. So it must have done okay.
Well, that's something with a song. You talk about like having a summer song. That's got a summer feel to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was another fun video.
Yep, My Yacht.
Silly, huh?
I'll tell you, 2 of the songs on that album that are two of my favorites. One, you actually have a version of on I Hear Voices, but Whole Lot of Lovin' and Naturally.
Oh, good. I wrote both of those with Huey. Funny you should mention it. Yeah, Whole Lot of Lovin' was another demo that I brought in. I called it Whole Lot of Talking to Do. And Huey immediately changed that one. But we knew that was going to work right from the get. That one just laid down, no problem. Naturally is probably the same thing. I brought in actually, Naturally is a more interesting story. If I can go into it for a minute.
Yeah, go for it.
I made the version, or close to the version that you hear on my solo record, a 6/8 sort of swing thing. We used a little of that. Yes. The beginning of the Huey and the News version. Well, we're mixing that record for at the power station in New York. I'm sure I'm gonna get beat over the head by a couple guys for getting these geographical facts wrong. But best of my memory, Your Honor, we're at the power station in New York, and somebody mentions, I think I don't know how many tracks are on Fore, but somebody mentions, we could use another song. You got another song? We're in the 11th hour here. Could we use another tune? And I want to give Huey credit for taking naturally my demo that didn't make the record. And he says, why don't we just take it sort of up tempo, and swing it? And we worked up an arrangement on the spot. We're mixing in one room with Bob Clearmountain. We're mixing Fore. We rented another room and put an engineer and a microphone up and a few mics. Let's face it, that'd be cheating. And we cut naturally right there in the power station in New York, and threw that next door and put a mix on it, and it got on the record. What am I say? No, I got a song on the record.
Exactly.
So it wasn't my favorite version of the song. I really liked the 6/8 version because I sort of fancy that old-fashioned stuff, and that was why I recut it for my record.
Yeah, I was going to say you mentioned Bob Clearmountain. I recently saw a quote that he had said. I'm going to read it to you. A little lengthy, just to warn you.
Okay.
Bob said, Huey Lewis news have always been amazing. If anything, they've gotten better. The recordings are just brilliant. I feel like they're letting me mix just because they like to come and say hello. The records are so simple to mix because they are so incredibly well recorded. Johnny Colla is just a brilliant arranger. It's amazing what he does with the arrangements and the vocals. The vocals are always impeccable. Nobody ever needs to be tuned. They are very carefully recorded, but they have a great feel besides. They're not sterile sounding at all. This album, Weather, has got a great feel and is impeccably recorded. They're old friends, and it's just great to have Huey here. He's always got the most incredible stories.
I'm turning red. I've never heard that before. So,
well,
first,
when Bob Clearmountain tells you that what you do is impeccable, that's a pretty big compliment.
Wowee! I got to send him something. We're still great friends, and as is my custom, Huey and I usually go down and mix. It's usually just the two of us. I am the fly on the wall in the back, and inevitably, I always start my line with, "Look, I don't want to bug you, but," and I just try to get these little pieces, the little hints and what he's doing and how he gets what he's doing, and I mean, I'm proud to say, as a mix evolves, he calls us in, and I'm the first guy he looks at, when the song stops, because I think I have always had the most constructive criticism, and I have a knack for seeing the big picture and listening to the entire product rather than, turn me up. I can't hear enough of me and all that stuff. I always try to pick one thing from Bob every time I show up down there. And so I'll usually tell him, okay, this is that one thing moment. Where is this? Or how do you do that? How do you get, I think the last one was, I worked, because another thing I do with Clearmountain is I always send him my best mix. And a lot of mixers could care less, but he happens to respect my effort and maybe what I come up with. I don't know. And so this particular, we're down there for Weather. And one particular song, the cymbals are really splashy. I can't remember the tune. And I said, I worked on this mix forever, and I just keep bringing the overheads, the drum overheads. I bring them down and I drum. But it's just, as you can hear, you hear my demo. It's a mess. And how do you do that? How do you clean those things up? And all your records are like that. God damn, I hope I'm not giving too much away here. Anyhow, he said, I just take the high end off them and bring them down. Just you can hear them in all the other mics. That's simple, huh? So you live and you learn. Yeah.
Isn't that always the way, though?
Yeah. But I enjoy my time down there so much. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Tell me this, Johnny. Are you a live performance guy or a studio guy?
I'm absolutely a studio guy. I mean, this is there it is. This is my home in my home. And I spend so much time down here. There's the other side, and all my old amps, and 50 microphones, and I don't know. It's actually Clearmountain's a great example. He gets up in the morning and has a little breakfast and goes down and goes to work. He takes a break for lunch and goes back to work, and he stops and he has dinner and he's done for the day. And depending on the project, he may or may not take weekends off. So I'm the same way here. I've always believed in a regiment around being in the studio, because it's the only way you get better at it. And a lot of times getting out of the room and getting away from it, coming back in, you hear things and rediscover things that you might have missed sitting in there for 7 hours at a time. So reflective time, that's all. Simply put.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love to play live. I'll be the first one to admit I'm better in the studio than I am a performer live. But I'm sure practicing a lot now that I have all this time on my hands. So that's a lot of fun. I mean, my horn's out all the time, and I pick it up and fall in love all over again, and it's just a wonderful working atmosphere down here.
Yeah. Tell me this.
I can stir the soup. I can feed the dogs. I can take a walk in the garden, and life's not bad.
Yeah. Your go-to sax. How long have you been playing that particular instrument?
Since we cut Buzz, Buzz, Buzz. You tell me. 83?
82.
Okay. It's an interesting story. I played alto when we started Huey and the News, or when we got it down to the 6 guys that would be Huey Lewis and the News. I played alto sax, and that's it. I just stood there, and I was the other guy who sang with Huey for the most part. Can I stop that by turning off my sound? You're not hearing it anyhow. Good.
Yeah.
So I stood there with an alto sax and sang all the 2 parts and the harmonies and played solos. And I'll give our manager at the time credit. He said, "Do you do anything else?" And I said, "Well, I know my cowboy chords on guitar, and I do. If I have the right song, I write songs on guitar." He says, "Good. Would you consider playing guitar when you're just standing?" I said, "Absolutely." So I didn't even own a guitar. In fact, I had to borrow Bill Gibson's Stratocaster for the first 2 years of our career, not only to record with, but to go on the road with. To this day, he still owns it. So, folks, if you see a white Stratocaster advertised as the Stratocaster on the cover of Huey and the News' first record as a selling point, buy it. It's true.
Not one of those lies that are true, right?
No, exactly.
I'll tell you, yeah, keeping things moving forward. Small World came out in '88. That one, you guys kind of spread your musical wings a bit stylistically.
Yeah.
So with that one, what was it like in the band? Because obviously now you've had sports, you've had Fore, now you're kind of in a growth period, if you will, musically.
Yeah, I guess it's a growth period. I think we were all becoming, we were writing more to the styles we embraced. I mean, the best example would be the Small World, Chris's offering, which is a pretty not straight ahead jazz tune, but it's got some amazing changes and horn parts, and then juxtapose that with Old Antones, and you get my point. I think I contributed 2 songs to that, and they're both more in the Americana rockabilly genre, where Chris was writing more toward what was in his heart. And when that gets homogenized in the band, that's how it worked in the past, but it was not quite as homogenous here 10 years later, if you know what I mean. Not such a bad thing, and I'm sure it affected sales, but there's some wonderful tracks on that record. Wow.
Well, you mentioned Old Antones. That's actually one of my favorite songs on that album.
Mm-hmm. Great. Wonderful.
Yeah. Now with that, what was your inspiration with that one?
Whew. Man, I don't even know. It might have been a Bruce Hornsby tune. I can't remember, but I wanted something. I wanted something with some, I don't know, roots, because that's the stuff I like. And God, I can't. I couldn't tell you the song, but Huey must have felt the same way because Bruce played on that tune, if I remember right. And additionally, Huey pitched the idea of Hornsby singing 2-part with him. Well, I bristled. Oh man, you're pulling the rug out from under me, brother. He plays accordion on it. Isn't that enough? So I think Bruce took a swipe at it, and I said, I don't know if I have the story correct or not. Too long ago to remember. But I said, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like Huey in the News. Mm-hmm. I should be singing the 2-part with you. And so that's where it ended up.
Yeah, Better Be True is your other song on that album.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, that one's got more of that soul influence on it.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you. I'd have to go back and listen where that came from. I mean, that was a place in time where we were, I wouldn't say it was a race, but it's all we did every day was go in and try to come up with something new. We were in a bit of a pickle for material. So really it was Bill, Chris, and myself, going in, putting as I used to say, put our nose to the take-up reel, get in there and go and try to come up with something that the band's going to embrace and cut, and it got harder and harder as time went on. So for myriad reasons.
Right. Well, speaking of time going on, 2 years later, Hard at Play.
Really? Only 2 years later?
Yeah, from 88 to 90.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. and on that one, I got to tell you, my favorite track on that album, you actually open Lucky Devil with, and that's Time Ain't Money. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was interesting that you redid that one, because I always thought that was a hit single waiting to happen.
I have to question the year that came out, but I'll bet you know the facts more than me, huh?
Well, hold on here. Let me check the disc, and I'll tell you.
Well, the reason I
read it.
The reason I say that is because we took a bit of a sabbatical there.
You what? 91.
Oh, I'll be darned. Okay. Yeah. All right. Play 91. Good. All right. Yeah. Golly. Where were we going with this? I'm reading the strip there. A couple days off. Hit me like a hammer. He don't know. I can't believe we were that productive. We usually only put out a record every 5 years.
Yeah. Well, you did take a break before the next one.
Yeah. Time ain't money is a simple answer. It's not fair to say. It's not fair to say I didn't like the version we came up with, but I thought it was a little slick. Yet it fit Huey in the News. And so that was fine. Besides, we got John McPhee to come in there and blow crazy over it. And I was slack-jawed when he played over that thing. And the same old thing, I liked my demo better than what Huey in the News came up with. And, excuse me, when I finally found the time to go in and make it myself, it was probably the first track I knew I was going to cut for my project. So yeah. I really like my version.
Yeah, like I say, when Lucky Devil came out, I was pleased to see that song. Like I say, that was always my favorite track on Hard to Play. So
Thanks.
I love the Don Covey cover as well. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That was some fun stuff. Well, we had those backing singers going, and it was just we were. In case you couldn't tell, we were headed toward that R&B Americana side of things. No slight on Chris and that stuff, because he was embracing it too. But after we, how do I say this gracefully, learned our lesson with Small World, we started working toward that R&B soul thing, which maybe the public didn't embrace as much, but it was certainly truer to the band at the time.
Yeah, well, with that, you guys did the second version of It's All Right you had done, because you had done it as the one version as the B-side of Power of Love, 45. And then for the People Get Ready tribute to Curtis Mayfield, you recorded it again. And then that one became a top 10 AC hit for you guys.
My goodness. I don't even remember that. It wasn't the same track, huh?
No.
I'll be darned.
At least from what I've read, and from what I've heard, it's not the same thing.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Well, it was a live version, if I recall correctly, was the B-side to Power of Love. Okay. And then you guys went into the studio and did the version for the Curtis Mayfield tribute.
Got it. That's starting to make more sense for me. Right. And that was, as you may or may not know, or the public may or may not know, that was one of the diamonds when we would warm up backstage, which is how our entire a cappella bit came to be in the first place. We got so good. These things started sounding so good backstage before warming up before a show. Huey just said one day, hey, hell with it. Let's just get around the mic and do it on stage tonight. We did. It was a smash, and it became part of the act for 20-something years.
Uh-huh.
And It's All Right may have been the first one. I can't remember. But it was certainly one of the best.
Tell me this, Johnny. The follow-up album, it was Fore Chords several years ago. Were you all guys already working on that album when you did It's All Right for the Curtis Mayfield tribute, or did that kind of steer you guys towards doing that the Fore Chords album?
It certainly didn't steer us toward that. I'm going to try to get my records straight here. Because I get that mixed up with Soulsville a lot. Fore Chords several years ago. I think our manager came up with the title, which is amazingly witty. But once again, it was a wonderful tribute to those tunes, and Huey was certainly the man to sing those tunes. A lot of them were just naturals for us. A lot of them, Little Bitty Pretty One, let's say. That was one of our, that was in our back pocket from the a cappella songs. And we used to knock that one out of the park live. So that was an easy record to make. And we decided to take on a couple backing singers, Sandy Griffith and Kanisha Monet Owens. and it just made the entire recording session and subsequent tour so much fun, and such a and we, of course, we had a new horn section we brought in at the same time, just to have fresh faces and stories out on the road and in the studio. Really brought the band alive after a bit of a hiatus there in the mid 90s. God, I don't know. Those were wonderful times.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned before about taking a break between albums. It was 7 years before Plan B came out.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Now, Plan B is actually one of my favorite albums from you guys on there because, again, now that album's got a lot of that roots, your early influences on there. Mm-hmm. And then we mentioned Mike Duke, the Let Her Go and Start Over. It was a great track for you guys.
Yeah, had been around for a while, fit right in with this project. And I mean, I'm not beating my own chest, but I think at this point in our career, let me see if I have it right. I think Chris had retired from the band, and we had taken on a decidedly R&B direction, even though they were tribute songs. We were kind of headed in that direction anyhow, sort of blue-eyed soul. And I had taken on a bigger role in the band as in the producer's seat and the arranger's seat, and which I just loved and embraced. And I got Wynonna to come in and sing the duet with Huey because Wynonna and I had struck up a relationship elsewhere, and that was just a magical time. It was really fun to see the band go somewhere successfully for us, which I didn't really feel that way about Small World. I felt Small World was a little disparate stylistically. We were all becoming a little selfish with our own musical tastes, and this it started to come together with this particular record.
Yeah, we'll tell you the opening track, Johnny, on Plan B. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. Tell me about that one.
Oh boy. You'd have to get a judge and a jury to figure out who put that one together, because Chris had a tune working, and it had a certain feel. Huey had thrown this hook at us, and I had another tune with a feel similar to Long Time Good Time called Change the World. A silly little tune, but I really liked the music. And somewhere in there, like I said, these things were moving fast, man. It was loose and fast back then. And I want to say Chris took my Long Time Good Time, a little bit of my old demo feel, and slapped it on there. And that's when the tune clicked. So there were several failed attempts at that song. And so it was really a team effort. And again, we weren't really writing as much as a team anymore.
All right. Well, tell you what, Johnny, earlier you mentioned the album Soulsville, the tribute to Stax. How did that album come together?
Once again, I think it was our manager at the time's idea, come up with Soulsville. And I absolutely immersed myself in the project because that's what I do. That's what I love to do. And I'll bet I went through 800 songs in my library. And I got that down to about 25 or 30. And it was, I don't know, it wasn't that hard to figure out where we needed to go with it. I think the idea was not to cover too many hits, shall we say, which actually most of them weren't hits across the United States, except maybe Respect Yourself. But we wanted sort of semi-obscure stuff that suited Huey and to really spotlight his singing. I think a great example is the Otis Redding just another day. He sings a shit out of that. It's beautiful. Once again, that was a really fun record to make, and thanks to the band, I got to carry a big stick and arranging and all of that stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, well, I thought your takes on "Never Found a Girl," "Don't Let the Green Grass Fool You," "Never Like This Before," yeah, nice choices, and they fit the band really well.
Yeah, we honed it down to the good ones.
You can't go wrong with Eddie Floyd anyway.
No kidding. How many Eddie Floyd tunes did we cut?
I think just I Never Found a Girl, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, but I mean, you got Solomon Burke. You had Grab This Thing. So I mean, that's
Yeah. What a fun record to make. It's kind of what all the bands do, I guess, but we decided to do it ourselves, and we went to Memphis to Ardent Studios to cut the record. And it was fast and furious. I had all the vocal and horn arrangements. We set up so the band was in one room, and we had the horns in another room playing live and with a video screen so they could see what's going on. And it went down so easy. We had charts and played the songs till we got one we liked, and brought in a few things to tighten it up a little bit. Brought in a couple guest artists. We did overdub the backing vocals. It just went down so smoothly, and it was so much fun. And we ate like dogs there, just ate all we could because we're in Memphis. And I think one of the highlights for me, because we're waxing about, the history of Memphis and this and that. And one of the second engineers, he takes me aside and says, "You really like all this old stuff, huh?" I said, "Yeah, man. This is what I grew up on. You guys had WDIA. We had KDIA in San Francisco. So we're getting all the soul music that's coming out of the South. And San Francisco, Bay Area is the only place that's getting it on the West Coast. So I'm familiar with it, and I'm just blown away to even be here. So involved in it." And he says, "You want to go see those studios?" I said, "What?" And he goes, "I teched them all. I got the keys to all of them." So we went around to, the Stax Museum, Royal Studios, where a lot of the stuff was cut. And of course, when we go, Sun Studio, which is a tourist attraction. And we're cutting tracks at Ardent. So pretty much covered all the bases there. Oh, and we went to Sam Phillips' second studio when he bailed from Sun and built his own place. These places are just time capsules.
Mm-hmm.
Royal Studios still had Booker T's set up there.
Oh,
there's the B3. The drums are in the booth. There's cobwebs. The baffles are falling off the walls. The 1-inch Ampex 8 tracks are sitting in the corner. It was just, for me, it's like going to heaven.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I know when I went through the Stax Museum. I mean, you just walk through there. It's just so much history. It's so much great music, and that's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Again, as we said before, spans between albums. It was a decade. With Weather, that was actually your first EP, if you will, because there were 7 songs on that. Question for you on that, purely, as a fan, was there ever any consideration to using 3 of the songs that hadn't made the cut for other albums to round out Weather as a full LP?
There was actually. I suggested, Huey took a bit of a hiatus somewhere in the early mid-90s and worked on some stuff of his own, which was my first opportunity to work on Lucky Devil. I wasn't just going to sit around and twiddle my thumbs. He worked on some stuff on his own, and I suggested 2 cuts off of that solo project that he was playing around with. But somehow it fell on deaf ears, which is okay. And we looked around at some other songs, and we wrote a lot, but it seemed harder and harder to write stuff that fit in with what was the dynamic of the band at the time. So that's why you got 7. In spite of what the press might have read, it's not like we were writing songs and Huey lost his hearing, so we only got 7 tunes done. That was it looked good on paper, but that's not really what happened. So
Yeah. Well, tell me this. What's that?
Can't nickname the truth. There you
go. Well, I'll tell you on that, while we're young, I really like the horn motif that runs throughout that. Tell us about that song.
Well, besides the horn motif, that was a song that was about 3 years in the making. Huey and our bass player, John Pierce, worked up this little demo down at either Huey's place or John's down in LA or San Diego. And that came to us. And I said, man, those are 2 great parts there. I think there's a song in the making. I said, I know I've got a 3rd part in there somewhere. Give me some time. Well, as Allah is my witness, I took 2 years to come up with this little section, and I moved, I don't know, I made one of their parts a B section, and I came up with this verse idea and worked with it and demoed it up here and worked with the tracks that they'd given me. And it got better and it got better. And I started singing some silly stuff over the B section and chorus. And it became what you hear on the record. And that is the first song, possibly, since Bad is Bad, that Bill Gibson did not play drums on.
Oh, wow.
How about that? He doesn't feel bad about it. I think he wanted to play drums, but it had this thing. It was a new direction for us, sound-wise. I mean, it had this kind of R&B thing to it, but it also had this sort of tech thing in the synthesizers and stuff. And for my money, that was kind of the first offering, the first thing we knew it was going to get on the record, albeit it took many years to get the song done. For my money, I told the guys, that's where we ought to head. We ought to write 7 or 8 more of these, and that's the new Huey Lewis, the News. Well, that's easier said than done. And as you get older and more set in your ways, it gets harder to please everybody, and you got what you got there. But
it is what it is.
Probably my favorite track. Whereas Ron Stallings, our sax player, say, "What are you going to do?" That could be my favorite track on the record.
Yeah,
that was really cooked up. 90% of it was cooked up right here in my room, and then we did some horn stuff and Huey's vocal at our studio. So it's fun.
Yeah. Well, before we move into your solo efforts, looking back on the 10 studio albums that you guys did, what's the album that you have the greatest affinity for?
Wowee. One of those questions, huh? Okay.
It's like, which is your favorite kid?
Yeah, exactly. Golly, Michael. I don't know. It might be Fore, Chords and several years ago. For selfish reasons. I had a bigger hand in production. And I'm a big soul music fan. I'm a big Americana fan. I'm not a big hit record fan. I listen to that stuff and I know what it is, or I used to. Not anymore.
No.
But I just had so much fun making that record. That one really sticks out for me. It wasn't work. It put itself out there for us. It's really, really a good time.
Yeah. Tell me this. On the other side of the coin, Is there an album or tracks that you wish you guys could go back and do just a little bit differently?
Yeah, mine's probably Small World and Fore. I think there's some tracks on there that shall go unnamed that either, who knows, should they even have been on the record or could they have been approached differently? It's not for me to say, but it's easy to, hindsight's 2020. You listen back and you go, oh shoot, that could have gone that way, or this could have gone that way. So there's a little of that, but there's always that in every artist's career, even in movies, anything.
Well, yeah, I often say that, an album is a snapshot of where that artist is at that point in time.
That's right.
Yeah, good, bad, indifferent, what have you.
Yeah, you have to be in the moment. You got to be true to that, being in the moment, and it's, if you're somewhat cognizant and sane and keeping your head on, it's a reflection of that moment. Where if you don't keep care of yourself and don't grow up, you end up putting out records like a lot of artists I may have worked with in the past. I'll just leave it at that.
There's a few folks whose albums sound the growth chart is takes more than one page to slow how slow that growth has been.
There's forget cuts on albums. There's some albums that shouldn't have come out, right? Done for the money.
Yeah,
but there you go. So that's life.
Well, I'll tell you, you didn't release your first solo album until 2003. And prior to that, when Lucky Devil came out, had you been accruing tracks to put on an album throughout the years? And it just, 2003 was the time to do it, or?
Yes. Actually, like I said, when Huey took a break there in the mid 90s somewhere, early mid 90s, I didn't waste a moment. I started fooling around with my own stuff in my own room and working with the band. And my first Lucky Devil started coming into focus, albeit blurry, and coming into focus a little bit there. I was starting to cut some demos and playing on my own. So I knew where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And I started to work on my first record. And then I had to change gears because Huey and the News got back together and started touring and making records. And so for all intents and purposes, Lucky Devil was probably starting to get cooked up around 94, 95. And yes, it took that long to get it done, or to find the time to get it done, I should say.
Yeah. Well, that album has got a very country feel to a lot of the tracks.
Yeah.
Was that something that just happened? Was that your intention, or a little bit of both?
No, it's got that rockabilly, Americana, country thing. I think you could throw all those in there, and it's a reflection of Time Ain't Money and Old Antones, and I'm gravitated toward that thing. I don't know why. Maybe I can blame my Uncle Dwayne for playing edgy country records when I was a little kid. I don't know, but I embraced all genres. I got it all. It was all coming at me when I was a kid, and I obviously had a talent and a propensity. That's the wrong word, but I had a natural ability for music, and I took it all in. I got it from, like I said, my Uncle Dwayne's playing me country music, my cousin Mike's playing me James Brown, my mom and dad are playing, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and Teresa Brewer. My brother's playing the top hits in 1962, and then the Beatles came on, and it was my turn. So it became that. From then on, became my music. But I always liked country, Americana, edgy music, and so it's not by coincidence it came out that way. I let it write itself in a strange way. Then I put a band together and sort of had auditions and figured out what suited where it was going, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Let it happen naturally.
Over and over. Track on Lucky Devil. What's the story on that one?
Probably my relationship at the time. We've all been there, right? Did I have a co-writer on that? I didn't do my homework. See, as usual, the interviewer folks knows more about you than you do, than you can remember.
That one I don't recall, to be honest with you.
So. I think I wrote that one. It's not the happiest of songs in the world, but you write those things, and like you said, they capture a moment. And that one happened to be a dark, moody moment.
Mm-hmm.
I got it, cut it, and got it out of my system and moved on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's on the unemotional side and the fun side. I had my own studio up a little north from here at the time. And part of my angst at the time was because we all had families by then and aging parents to worry about and lots of other problems that come with success. I wanted a 9-to-5, and I didn't have it anymore when I was home. So I built a studio outside my house, and I would go to this studio, and I had 2 little rooms. There were times I didn't even have a second engineer. I'm all by myself. So that song is a great example. I started the tape in the control room 20 seconds before the song started. I ran into the other room. If you listen to the multi-track, you can hear doors slam. And I stuck the headphones on, and I played the snare drum, hopefully all the way through. Well, that took about 18 times before I got my snare drum track all the way through that 4-minute cut, And I like those little moments.
Yeah.
It's a moody tune. I got it out of my system. There'll be more, I promise you.
Now, on Lucky Devil, what's a couple of the tracks that you enjoy the most, if you will?
Golly. Run Some By Me.
New Romeo, Run Around Heart, Your Old Boyfriend, Letter of the Law.
Yeah, right. I like Letter of the Law. That's kind of a tell-all, a nasty bit, even though the names have been changed to protect the guilty. I pulled New Romeo from Clover's lead singer, Alex Coll. I always liked that tune since he cut it way back when. I don't know if I have a favorite track on that record. I did a lot of co-writing with a friend of mine here in Marin, David Fredericks. God, I'd have to look at the album to remember all the tracks.
Yeah.
Your Old Boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I think that came as a demo to Huey Lewis and the News. And it was originally called Your Old Girlfriend. Oh, no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. That was cut by, oh my God, this old rockabilly gal. I forget her name. I've got her autographed picture in there on the wall. But she cut it as Your Old Girlfriend. And I figured I'll have my way with it and flip it. So flip the genre.
Yeah. Was that Wanda Jackson?
Yes, it was. I never got to meet her, but I think I somehow performed on a track, Wanda Jackson or the Collins Kids, one or the other. And I think that tune came to me. I think I might have sang on it. I don't even remember. But through our local critic and good friend, Joel Selvin here. I think that came to me through Joel. Now it's all coming back.
Well, I'll tell you, your second solo album, I Hear Voices. If you reveled in your roots Americana in country influence on Lucky Devil, now you're getting back to your R&B and soul influences with I Hear Voices. Tell us about that album.
I didn't steal the idea, but I certainly got the idea from Huey and the News, Four Chords. I thought, this is a nice collection. And in fact, probably a lot of the songs on I Hear Voices were songs that were pitched for chords, or maybe, I'm fairly certain. and I kept them in my back pocket because I knew I could sing some of those tunes. So my list for that record fell right into place. I cut more tunes. I cut one or two more tunes than I needed, or that did. Let's say they didn't work. And I don't know. It was an easy record to make. It was a lot of fun. I actually, as before, I auditioned 2 or 3 bands from locally, and then picked and chose who I wanted from those auditions. And the tracks just went down fantastic. I think, well, I'll let you, you're going to do some cutaways on this, right?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, good. Yeah, the original intention there was to make, let me start again. Don't touch your nose on camera. The original intention there was to make a sort of 50s record of my favorite tunes, the tunes I grew up with the band, the instrumentals, the instrumentalists, the band, as sort of a backing track, just sort of tucked back there with the vocals stuck way out front, like the old days, like the record sounded back then. And you don't realize that until you really listen to them. You go, wow, I barely even hear the band, where's the drummer? There's no bass or whatever. So that was my original intention. But then as I got to mixing the record, and I'm pressed for time here because Huey and the News we're working on stuff, and I'm taking a bigger hand in the production and arrangement and songwriting, which was just an honor. And as I started mixing this thing, I kind of dug the band thing. The band sounds pretty good in there. I'll bring the band up a little and work on the band sound, because it was really recorded pretty roughshod. I mean, it's just an old out-of-tune piano. The drums are hastily mic'd, and it's an upright bass. And if you solo up the instruments, you'd cringe, I'm sure. But somehow it works just like those old R&B records. You put it all together, and it's a nice little mishmash. So I decided to go with it and release it that way. Well, reflective time is hindsight is 20/20, and reflective time is valuable. It didn't take long, a handful of listens after I got the product back, because you get to get away from it for a couple of months. The product back and listen to the final product. I thought that was a mistake. It really should have been more of an a cappella effort. I immediately started working on the a cappella version. And now we're up to 2004 maybe. And believe it or not, if I have the timeline right, I don't know. Anyhow, Huey and the News took over. I had too much work with Huey and the News, and I put the a cappella effort aside. So as Weather wrapped up, I think it was, or Soulsville, or one of those, I jumped back into this a cappella project, and it only took about 2 months to put I Hear Other Voices together off of I Hear Voices.
Mm-hmm.
So there's I like to call it a reinvention, because if you listen to the two, there's obviously a lot of the same tracks, but there's a lot of additional information there, arrangements. I'm jumping ahead to the other record, aren't
I? That's where we were headed anyway.
Good. So I'd call I Hear Voices my happy failure, and I would call I Hear Other Voices the reinvention, the way what I really set out for in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I added a few more voices to I Hear Other Voices. I re-sang a couple parts, because when I stripped it down and gave it a good listen, maybe it didn't quite hold up as well as I thought it would. Put a few tambourines and hand claps in there to make it interesting. I left a lot of the little camaraderie and dialogue before and after the tunes, and it's what I was looking for in the beginning. So,
well, 10 years. It's real.
It is real. Yeah, it's a little frightening. It's Yeah. It's a light
Well,
of day.
that's what captures that that feel, though, as you mentioned, about the old records, where it wasn't quite as pristine as what things are today when folks go in the studio.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
I miss that.
Yeah, me too. I think I heard one critic was talking about the new Adele release and how amazingly she actually left a couple notes that weren't quite in tune. Imagine that. Like that's a big deal. Now that's a big deal,
Yeah.
And so my hat is off to her or her producer or anyone else that was involved with leaving a couple little chinks in the armor there on her latest release. And I'm going to do more of that. I have a couple projects on the way. So,
Well, you can take things. I mean, everybody wants it to be as good as it can be, but when you get to the point where the recording is so sterile that there's doesn't have a raw natural feel to it, that's when those records lose me.
well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do take the time. What's that? Oh, I have the what XM in my car, and I do take the time to turn over to channel 1 or 2. I can't even remember which one it is, but it's the top 10 of our country today. And I don't think there's a guitar currently on all 10 tracks, which is a sign of the times. And there can't be more than 4 or 5 chords, anything playing real chords, which is okay. The kids love it, but it's a tough one for me. It's
I'm with you.
It's elsewhere.
Yeah. There's a reason why you don't find that stuff in my collection.
Yeah. I'm not knocking it, but it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got some questions from folks, and a number of people wanted to know at what point did you and the band realize that you guys were going to make it?
Interesting question. I don't know if there ever was that point. Honestly, I can remember, I'm not sure what we were all doing at the time, probably working on, no, we weren't working on sports yet, but we were getting close. I remember driving in from the studio in the city, San Francisco, and hearing, I'm in my mom and dad's old beat up Camaro they'd given me. And I've got KFRC on, the big 610. And I'm coming over, just across the Golden Gate, and I'm coming up the pass. And Do You Believe in Love comes on. And, I'm going to take some credit there. I sing the hook, there's 8 Johnny Collas. And I pulled over on the side of the freeway, and I just started laughing so hard. I thought, holy shit, we're on the radio, it sounds great. Because the first record we never really got on. We sneaked on at little college stations here and there. This is amazing. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but I knew I had to pull over. So, but that wasn't. We made it because all we had was a hit, and or we thought we did. Then it started taking off nationwide, so we knew we were home free. That doesn't make a band. Let's face it. There's plenty of one-hit wonders. It was sometime after sports, and we started pumping out. These things started charting left and right. But no one ever came out and said, hey, wow, we just made it. There was never that aha moment. From then on, it was just, how do we keep this thing going? It's one of those. We didn't rest on our laurels.
Yeah. Well, with all the touring that you guys were doing around the world, are there any particular shows that stand out in your memory?
That must be another fan question.
Yes, it is.
Well, Cleveland certainly was. And that first tour across Texas in the South, we realized we were an ass-kicking live band, even though we were only playing anything from, 500 to 2,000 seat clubs, if there were seats at all. But golly, this one's going to take a second. Let's think. I think there were some tours that were, speaking of aha moments, and are we going to make it? I think it got said for us. We had done one little short Northwestern tour with the Doobie Brothers, which is probably the first time I couldn't figure out we were playing in front of the biggest audience we'd ever played in front of. And they were there to see the Doobie Brothers. And we can hear this, and couldn't figure out whether they were saying Doobies, Huey, or Boo. Well, turns out they were saying Doobies, And so that was a little rough to take. But not long after that, we opened for 38 Special. And I think the guys will excuse me, but agree with me for saying it. We killed them. We were the opening act, and Sports had come out, I think, maybe, or Do You Believe in Love? And we come out and just slaughtered them. I mean, we were a tough act to follow. And one of the guys in the band said, "Man, y'all are on. You can hang up your boots now. Y'all are on your way up. You done did it. Next time we play with y'all, we're going to be opening for y'all." And it was true. So that was an aha moment, I guess.
Yeah.
I did a few of those. Opened for Loverboy as opening act, and did a few big coliseums with Foreigner, and opened for bands like Joan Jett, and golly, I think we even opened for Tommy Two-Tone once. So, Like I said, those overnight successes usually take a good 5 years.
Yep, absolutely. Well, tell me this, Johnny, is there anything that we didn't touch on?
www.johnnycolla.com. No, johnnycolla.com.
Yep.
Selfless plug. No.
Which is scrolling across the bottom of the screen.
Oh, okay. I beat the scroll.
You beat the scroll.
Honestly, I don't know. I guess I'm. How do I sum it all up? I'm a cup half full guy, and if there's some amazing turnaround with Huey's hearing, some scientific breakthrough, I'll be the first guy on that bus, man. I'll jump on and I'll go do it all again. So I'm hoping for the best, but I'm prepared for the worst. And I've got 2 more projects up my sleeve. I mean, this stuff is already written. I have concepts for the packages and album titles, which I can't share, but it's all there. And I mean, the bottom line for me, you've seen The Room. I'm working currently. I'm doing some horn stuff on a Bonnie Tyler project. Still working with Ron Nevison and this and that, and doing a couple projects with other bands. Paul Thorne swings through. I jump his stage. And Mark Broussard came through, and I had to jump his stage. And I mean, the bottom line is, I'm just not done. I love what I do, and I'm so passionate about it to this day. Folks, you're not done with me yet. Okay.
Tell me this, Johnny, since your musical taste is quite varied, are there any styles that you haven't been able to work in yet that you're hoping to?
Nah. No, I think I really lean toward this sort of Americana thing. One of the most fascinating things for me is how certain country tunes would cross over to the black market back in black audiences back in the old days, and vice versa. And that's the blend I've been nuts about since I was a kid. And I think that's probably where my next 2 projects will head, somewhere down that lane.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Getting back to the Stax Museum, when I was there, the first thing, the little introductory, they had a clip with Rufus Thomas talking about how everybody would listen to the Opry on Saturday nights, and then once the Opry was done, start playing music themselves.
Yeah.
And country, R&B, soul, what have you. Yeah. It's all the same thing. The only difference is the perspective of the person singing it. But it's the same emotions, same basic stories. Yeah.
That's right. Only prejudice got in the way back then. And racism, strangely enough. And a lot of kids were getting chastised for listening to black music right there in Memphis, Tennessee, and everywhere in the South. It took a lot of years for that, not for the musicians to blend and work together. Let's face it, that's what Stax was all about. But it took that long for the public to accept the fact that white kids were listening to black music and vice versa in a strange way, because that's what was going on down there. That was a beautiful thing.
That's what I love about Stax.
Pardon me?
So that's what I love about Stax. Yeah. When you go in, when you look at those records, the musicians, it wasn't like, okay, here we have a black act or a white act. It was everybody playing together because they love the music.
Yeah. You can thank Steve Cropper for most of that mindset. Wonderful guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, on that note, Johnny, anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up?
Only thank you for having me. You've been a wonderful host, and I hope we get to talk again someday. This was, Michael, thoroughly enjoyable.
Well, thank you very much, Johnny. I truly appreciate you taking the time to be here. When you get those next projects ready, let us know, and we'll do it again.
You betcha. I'd love it.
All
Thanks
right,
for having me, Michael.
All right, everybody. We'll tell you what, on that note, we're going to wrap this one up. I want to thank you for watching. Johnny, thank you for being here. Everybody have a good night.
Cheers. Good night.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.